Okay, great. So obviously, as overachievers, I kind of alluded to this before, but as overachievers, we really want that go, go, go in a perfect world I. But a lot of times life gets in the way. And if we were successfully living out our value systems and all of our action items and all of our things, then we probably would not have signed up for this challenge, right? Because it's that we want to build these tools and build the awareness that it is maybe a skill deficit that we have that we want to like hone in and really maximize. So that's kind of where I lead to the bare minimum habit. So I talk about the bare minimum habit a lot. And the bare minimum habit is the best way I can describe it is like, what's the laziest version of you willing to do? Because if the laziest version of you has a capacity to do still a fair amount of bare minimum habits around fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle, then you're a pretty high capacity person, right? That's like what I always say separates like, the real fit people from like the unfit people. It's like people in the industry, coaches especially, we've just had a lot of time and a lot of energy to build enough bare minimum habits, So it's easy for Peter to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. It's not easy for everyone to do that, but he's had enough time to build up all these bare minimum habits that now, he has a series of them. And so he has this quote unquote fit lifestyle. So I always say when you're just starting out or when you're in the journey, you're just trying to build as many bare minimum habits as you possibly can. And then you don't want to be the overachieving version of it because you know that that leads to burnout. You know that that is unsustainable. You know that you can only do that for like, 6-week periods, 12-week periods, like, fits and stops and starts. So in order for this to be actually really sustainable, then you have to ask yourself the next question where it's like, okay, when I'm all in, then here's how I act. But when I am in the laziest version of myself, and I will say it like that, just so it's like a smile on your face. You can plug in whatever word, right? That has whatever connotation you want. That's just like, okay, my Netflix and chill self, what is that version of myself willing to do? And is that version of myself willing to have hydration before caffeine? Or in my laziest self, do I just roll out of bed and I'm like, oh my God, I need the caffeine, so I grab it. Like I trained myself now that the laziest version of myself will always still have water with electrolytes before I've grabbed my cup of coffee. The laziest version of myself will still say, oh, I can't get a solid workout in. I'm going to walk on the treadmill. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to choose to pick my kids up and walk them home instead of drive them home. So I find a way to have the laziest version of myself still reinforce the habits that I'm trying to build. Because I'm not always going to have the motivation, right? Like sometimes you just have to, as they say, fake it till you make it true, and you may not always feel like doing that. So I then think, okay, so what is the version of myself and what are the actions that I'm willing to do despite how I feel or when I am in the laziest version of myself? So I want you to share in the chats what's the laziest version of yourself willing to do. And that is like, those are the things that you pat yourself on the back of. So again, we're going back to the initial part of the conversation when I asked you what your wins are. This is another chance for you to give yourself a pat on the back, for you to, celebrate the win, for you to be like, you know what? Even the laziest version of me does this. And that kind of then leads to your non-negotiables. The like, no matter what that's how like we frame the question, the no matter what say I love you and kiss my kids goodnight. That's my non-negotiable. No matter what, I move in the morning. No matter what, I have electrolytes before coffee. No matter what, and so it's a practice in those two things. So what's my bare minimum habits? What's the thing that I am like the laziest version of myself is still willing to do this. So you have like your main rocks and then you kind of have like your bare minimum rocks, and then it's okay. That leads to my non-negotiables. What I'm willing to do of the laziest version of myself says a lot about me as a person, and a lot about my value systems. So think about those two things and share them in the chat. What is the laziest version of yourself willing to do? What action items have you trained yourself to do despite all things? And what are some non-negotiables that you have? So no matter what, I blank, or I am the type of person that always X. All right. Laziest version of myself is always making a protein shake in the morning instead of cooking a protein meal. Totally. So I'm the same way. I got, kids to get ready for school in the morning. So I'm not always able to like make the protein pancakes and do all the things. So making sure that you have your staples around breakfast and something that's easy and accessible and that lazy version. Great. Yep. Always gotta make time for the babes. Awesome. So another bare minimum habit or another, lazy version of myself, you will at least go out and walk one time a day or get 12,000 steps or 10,000 steps. Oh, with a broken foot. My goodness. Hashtag no excuses. Cool. So chicken bits from Costco, pre-make protein shakes. So you always hit protein macros. Yeah, that's a fun one. Pre-making meals brings so much satisfaction. Like it seems like you then all of a sudden become a crazy person where you're like, oh, I'm, meal prepping and it like you're becoming a different person. But the joy and satisfaction that Peter and I have on, let's just say a Monday night when we cook 2 beer can chickens and then one we eat that night, one we take the scraps to make chicken noodle soup. And then the next day we have a taco night and it's like all pre-prepped and planned, gives a lot of, makes us feel good, builds a lot of confidence around that. But honestly, it's just the lazy way to do it. It's like, let me have my future self thank me, thank my past self for doing this. Great. So any other non-negotiables or lazy actions? I think another big one we haven't chatted a lot about is the bedtime routine. That kind of sets the tone. So how you wind yourself down and what that looks like and the strategies that you have in play. So, a lot of times people's strategies is a nighttime glass of wine. And if you are in trying to not do that and make another choice, then it's like, okay, I'm thinking about substituting my evening routine. So something that is supposed to decompress and help me relax. Now, can I sub that with something else that helps me relax? A stretching routine, a really, great snobby tea that we can get excited about, all that. Great. Oh, and I like this idea. Always follow a negative action with a positive action. Never double down on a bad idea. And that acknowledgement of like, yeah, I fucked up. So now I move on. And that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people in the challenge, they beat themselves up. I've heard, things over the course of, time being like, oh, I feel like I'm failing this challenge and stuff like that. It's, that is the rabbit hole of the mindset trying to just trick you into failing. Like, you have to just have a negative action. And like, I like the saying, never miss twice, it's like, or never miss a Monday, or it's like, if you don't work out that day, it's like, okay, shit got in the way this way. I'm just not going to let it get in the way tomorrow. So I'm going to have that, decision to always follow a, either negative or not quite in line with what my ideal self is to then piggyback with a positive action. So as I said, we have in the past couple weeks of the challenge, the first 2 weeks are really the like mechanics. If you've been a part of Pharos for a long time, then you know that we got 3 pillars, at least of our fitness side of things. We got mechanics, right? So we believe in fundamentally, getting you to move better, to prioritize recovery, to prioritize having a strong environment so that then you can crush your strength and conditioning, right? So mechanics, strength, and conditioning are kind of like the 3 pillars that we lean our programs and our kind of ideology off of. And it really kind of it trickles into like the challenge, right? Like we start off with the mechanics. So we've asked you over the last 2 weeks to just have some more awareness, not necessarily go all or nothing, not necessarily, go deep into here's everything that I want you to do. It's more of, okay, well, what are you doing? And then where do you want to go? Let's establish where the deficit is, what skills or strategies we need to integrate, and then we align our actions from there. So I kind of, always wrap up the first 2 weeks of the challenge as being like, this is what we've done for the last 2 weeks. At least this has been our goal for the last 2 weeks with you guys. One is to define your value system. And for us, I define a value system as the makeup of your goals plus your purpose, and then your non-negotiables. So like your lazy actions, basically, it's not like your ideal actions, but your value system is based on the goals that you want, the why and the purpose that you have behind those goals, and then the non-negotiable actions that you're willing to do to reinforce the value system that you have. So, it, sounds a little woo-woo or a little, corny or whatever, but it really is like defining the kind of life that you want to live and then aligning your actions with it. So we define where our value system is, what our goals are, what we want, why we want it. In the journal, we were saying for every goal that you have, ask why 3 times to try to get a why that's strong enough that can reinforce all of the inevitable chaos and things that come to try to derail you from said goals. And then you have to assess where you are, right? So you have to say, okay, here's where I want to go. Here's the value system that I want, the non-negotiables that I want to build. And then here's where I am. And then that bridge is what we're building. Like that's what the point of the Limitless challenge is. It's not, okay, follow this program for the next 6 weeks and see what it gets you. It's let's take this 6 weeks to really assess where you are, figure out where the deficit is of where you want to be. And so that by the end of the 6 weeks, you have this really strong bridge that helps align your actions to then get to where you're going. So if you have felt lost in the past, we are here for you. And if you feel like you have not yet established a strong value system of your goals and your purpose and what non-negotiable habits you need in order to kind of get us there, then please, reach out to us. Make sure that in these next kind of check-ins, these, week 3 coming up on the halfway point that that we're feeling good and aligned and not with the seed of overwhelm or not good enough or that we have a program that we can't follow and that we're just set up to fail. Yeah.